Right, my friends, welcome to continued coverage of GP Detroit, the format Team Unified Modern. You're in the booth with me, Riley Knight, and alongside me it is, of course, Eduardo Sajkulik, the Canadian superstar and recently appointed pro player consultant as well, which I'm sure we'll get the chance to talk about. But right now, Mike Sigrist is off to a fly here with a Flameblade Adept. He's up against Alan Wu, and by the look of things, Wu living up to his name, playing white-blue control.
Exactly. Preset his name so that we don't have to change the graphic to match the deck.
Just one of the many ways, actually, I should say, that pro players look to help out team coverage like that, and we certainly do appreciate it. Medium-time coverage viewers will recognize the names Jacob Nagro and Alan Wu. Of course, these guys took down the last Pro Tour.
Well, Alan at least did. Jacob was not able to. It's interesting for me that Alan Wu and Gregory Orange are now on separate teams this tournament.
Excuse me.
Probably because Ben Hall wouldn't make it all the way from Vancouver. Probably recuperating from a well-done job.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry. Slight misstep on my... I never usually make errors. I never usually make mistakes, but I'll tell you what. It's going to happen once or twice today, I'm sure. Here's a Faithless Looting now from Mike Sigrist. He's written extensively about this deck, Eduardo. We know that he's a big fan of it, as he cycles a Street Wraith all the way to the floor. An interesting play.
Right, but here you're going to see a lot of power here. Street Wraith plus Faithless Looting. Free cards have been discarded. That means the Hollow One in Mike's hand is live. It's 4-power Flameblade Adept. It means the Flamewake Phoenix can also come out to play. This is a lot of damage. This is
so just the casual 12 damage or 12 power on turn 2 here.
Yeah, with 6 of it attacking right now.
Wow. All right. Sigrist really firing on all cylinders now as we see exactly that take place. He's had to take a bit of a pasting for this start, though. He's on 13 already, but Wu is going to be at even less than that after Sigrist really puts the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, and these blue-white control decks, they really... I mean, you've kind of seen Terminus as a way to... Because it's a way to beat these boards. Essentially, the blue-white decks would fall too far behind, so they play 4 copies of Terminus as a way to deal with the boards. But this is too fast, and...
It's too fast, and it's too furious, I would say. Street Wraith hits the bin now. We'll see what Sigrist can find on top. Still got a Gurmag Angler to deploy as well as a Faithless Looting now. Draw 2, discard 2. And there's not much that Wu can find here as we see some light tectonic activity rock the city, the Motor City here in Michigan. Other than a Terminus off the top, I've written about this card extensively. I really think it is just the best positioned answer to the modern format as a whole.
Well, assuming you draw the Terminus at the right time.
That's very true. Having a 6-mana sorcery in your hand in your opening hand is a real stinker.
Yeah, but it does get better later. Yeah, this is already like lethal damage.
Yeah, that's enough. Alan Wu has not even played his third land before he's packing up his cards. These guys going to the sideboards already, and this is the power of the Hollow One deck. We talk about it being a deck that is particularly, well, it's a devout follower of RN Jesus, right? You have to pop down on your knees and pray to the Lord and Savior Almighty if you want to. If you want to get those good draws. But I think the thing to be said about Hollow One, even though it is rolling dice, essentially, even though it is playing cards with random effects, those dice are loaded. Yeah,
because you get recursion from the graveyard. And I mean, in that game, there was no additional luck from a Goblin Lore Burning Inquiry. The Street Wraith plus Faithless Looting was just good enough. There was no need to, go for that.
Check this out, the 1-2-3 punch here from Brandon Ayers. Looks like he's on humans. And I don't know if he's ever going to need to tap a land to play a creature ever again here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, all Brandon wants is more and more frets. 2 Reflector Mage and a Meddling Mage. It looks like at least a Reflector Mage. This isn't exactly the pressure you want against a Jeskai control deck.
More mages in the Unseen University by the look of things here as we have a look at what Stark is up to. His hand seems to be well set up to contest humans, and I really like the Jeskai matchup, a little bit more so than blue-white when it comes to beating the humans deck.
Right. The best reason, I think, to run Jeskai this weekend is that Jeskai is a little better set up against humans, and it also has a pretty sizable edge in the blue-white mirrors, because those mirrors a lot of the time come down to something like Celestial Colonnade or little chip damage from Snapcaster Mage, Lightning Bolt, and Planeswalkers. So the deck with Lightning Bolt Snapcaster is going to be better set up because it has less dead cards. It gets to do small amounts of damage, and it makes sure that your opponent cannot resolve Planeswalker and defend it. It's possible to resolve it in some spots, but you aren't able to defend it. So that's why I like the Jeskai. It seems better since most of your opposition is bringing Celestial Colonnade and Cavern of Souls to this tournament.
Another Reflector Mage here, just a 3-mana 2/3. That's all it's doing in this matchup here. But I like the point you're making there. Jeskai is able to put a lot more pressure on opposing Planeswalkers, especially out of blue-white. It's able to play that more proactive game. It can go Bolt, Snap, Bolt, maybe board in some guys, some Spell Quellers, get on the front foot. But all the same, I think as a whole, against the field, it's a lot worse. It doesn't play Terminus. Its mana base is a lot more painful, and I don't know. We'll see now here a Snapcaster Mage come down, flashback a Lightning Helix, but Talia's Lieutenant in response leaves the Helix doing not a whole lot, just gaining Ben Stark a bit of life. I guess it forestalls an attack, however, here, Eduardo.
Right. I mean, right now, what Ben is trying to do is just buy time until Ben hits one of the sweepers, ideally. 4 toughness is actually a pretty key point. Lightning Helix and Lightning Bolt, pretty perfect at killing everything else. But once you hit that 4 toughness, it's kind of the sweet spot. And main deck, Ben doesn't have that many answers to it. The best one I could see is something like Snapcaster Mage plus Lightning Bolt, or Electrolyze plus a Bolt Lightning Helix, or, just draw that Supreme Verdict right off the top.
Needs Supreme Verdict, needs to settle the wreckage. Even something like a Timely Reinforcement is going to be helpful. I love this permanent placement from Ayers. Traditionally, we see, artifacts, enchantments, utility cards splayed out like that to the right, and then the creatures off there as the Ether Vials are. But Ayers has banged this script down, flipped it, and reversed it, and now an attack with this mighty Reflector Mage here as well after a Phantasmal Image copies the Lieutenant. Stark needs to find something here. Looks like it's going to be Teferi, the hero of Dominaria. What does that do for him right now?
Well, if Stark has access to cheap removal, then he can defend Teferi and then run away with the game. If the chances of winning the game get much higher if you have access to like a Planeswalker like Teferi in play, just because generating mana and card advantage is so huge in a game like this. I was wondering why Brendan didn't attack with the Reflector Mage last turn. Since I was trying to figure a reason for that, since it seemed like it could have attacked, so I'm not entirely sure what occurred there.
What was Stark's mana situation? Did he have mana up?
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. I got it. Essentially, Stark on upkeep, most likely, did a Lightning Helix, and Brandon didn't want to attack with the Reflector Mage that took Lightning Helix to not trade with Snapcaster.
That had damage marked on it, yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed unclear just because it wasn't quite clear where we were in the turn, but yeah, it was the upkeep, yeah.
The timing
so that explains why you wouldn't attack with, obviously, Reflector Mage. You want the 4/5 to stick around. Ben would have been only too happy to trade Snapcaster for a 4/5.
Stark needs something special here. Teferi might be able to help him find it. As we said, it's basically Wrath or bust, and he's not playing that critical mass of Wrath effects that we see in typical blue-white based control decks in Modern. Ayers lines up his attacks. Can I tell you something? What is this card doing in Ben Stark's deck list? Can I ask you, Eduardo Sajgulik, why are there 4 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination in Stark's deck list?
You got to find value where you can.
Okay, this is not standard. Just Stark realized there is Ancestral Visions. There is, Glimmer of Genius. There's Sphinx's Revelation, and he's gone for Hieroglyphic Illumination. At best, a 4th tier standard playable. Look, he's the master. He's in the Hall of Fame. He must be onto something, but this is...
it was an Amonkhet Limited All-Star.
Oh, well, sure. Well, then slam it in. From Amonkhet Limited All-Star to Modern playable. What a journey this card has gone on. Snapcaster Mage going to snap off a block here.
Right. One interesting aspect, by the way, of Teferi is it puts Brandon in a really awkward position in attacks, since if you under-attack, then Teferi probably will survive. But if you over-attack, then you just gained Ben a lot of life. But wow, that Phantasmal...
Another Phantasmal Image. That's a real beating here for Ayers. As we see a Path to Exile on the Reflector Mage. It's going to keep that Snapcaster Mage... contained. Oh, no, it's still going to try. You're going to trade off or not? No. Okay, and Teferi goes down as well. Ayers going to fetch out a basic. He's playing an island as well.
Yeah, and that's why you see the attack that Brandon went for, attacking the Reflector Mage to Ben Stark directly. It was because the image was at the ready. Ben could probably have understood that this would come, but I don't think Ben had a way to respond to it particularly. Ben Stark now going to have to find something here. He's not going to be able to use those Hieroglyphic Illuminations to find a Terminus, as he's not playing any copies of Terminus. I can see the synergy between those cards, but all the same, come on, play Think Twice. Play think twice. Is that the angle?
Absolutely. I mean, at one like Alexander Hayner Pro Tour, if it's good enough for him, a proud Canadian, it's good enough for me.
That was a very different format.
Well, okay. Says the man who was recently equating Amonkhet Limited with the finest decks in Modern. Ayers here.
I mean, I played Worship in Amonkhet Limited. That's also good in Modern, right?
Worship?
Yeah. That was my best limited deck of all time. Worship in Approach of the Second Sun.
Are you an actual literal worship?
That was at GP Vegas. This was an actual Grand Prix where I opened.
Jeez, all right. Eduardo Sajkalik, ladies and gentlemen. Total next level stuff from him. Ayers, look at this. He's tapping and untapping these creatures like a Pa in Little House on the Prairie.
I mean, this is playing around Settle the Wreckage. Settle the Wreckage is in a card that is seeing more play in Modern these days.
It's just going to be the Reflector Mage now, yeah. And this is the thing with Settle. You're absolutely right. It's become a huge force, something that players really have to worry about.
I mean, usually you play one or two copies, so this might be overcautious. I would probably have attacked with at least a second creature here, just to because you do have to deal pressure. I guess the problem with the second creature attack, if you put your opponent on Settle, then the problem is you can't attack with one of the smaller creatures because then Snapcaster plus a Path to Exile would be good enough to do a lot of damage, or even a Bolt. So yeah.
And this is where Jeskai gets a lot of equity, right, throughout combat steps by wrong-footing opponents, as we see Ayers, an activation of the Aether Vial. What's he found? Perhaps a Meddling Mage. Oh, it's going to be Kitesail Freebooter in the draw step. A nice one here from Ayers. Let's see what Stark has in his back pocket here. Looks like Lightning Helix to Ferry.
So this was a really interesting sequence by Brandon. Essentially, Brandon does it this way because he feels that he would win the race with an attack next turn. And by doing this now, he gets the maximum amount of information available. So the idea was if Ben drew a Supreme Verdict, you could take it, and then you could attack on the backswing for lethal anyways. So that's why you saw Brandon take a very conservative attack. Brandon felt he was far enough ahead that he could. I think it's an interesting discussion as to whether that was correct or not, but I believe that was Brandon's angle. I would have personally liked to be a bit more aggressive since you need to put in damage since your opponent has access to Path to Exile and Snapcaster Mage and Path to Exile, so you have to put in that damage. So I don't know how much you can play around the card like Settle the Wreckage, but it was interesting that Brandon decided to make that play.
Very conservative, yes indeed. Stark here, considering his options, we saw him reveal his hand to the Kitesail Freebooter. Of course, doesn't get to pick a card out of it after the Lightning Helix removed it. And Stark's hand, Mountain, Teferi, Serum Visions. He's just going to go for the Teferi instead. All right. Tuck away the Lieutenant here.
Yeah, let's try not to die if we don't draw a removal spell, since if Teferi went up and Ben didn't draw a Path to Exile or Lightning Bolt, that would have been it for the game.
All over Red Rover. Let's see what Ayers can find now. Well and truly ahead on board. And those Aether Vials, the 3-2-1 on Aether Vials, like a piano lesson here. It looks like Ayers is now going to get a little bit more frisky with this attack. All out, of course, not having to play around the Settle. And that's going to keep Stark on the back foot here.
Yeah, and men can pretty much infer that Brandon doesn't have a human in hand, since Brandon would have vialed in virtually any human with those two phantasmal images copying lieutenants.
So bottom top here for Stark after that Serum Visions. He's found something off the top. I think it was a Timely Reinforcements. Oh, and just in the nick of time. Look at that. Well and truly living up to their name. Back up to 10. Stark has gained 19 life this game.
Yeah, and this Timely Reinforcements is why you can't be too conservative against a card like Sell the Wreckage, is you start losing to just normal draws.
Yeah.
That said, I think Ben has it on top, if I saw it correctly with Serum Visions.
A Teferi?
No, Settle the Wreckage.
Oh, Settle? Is that right?
I think so. I'm not 100%.
I thought it was a gold card. Oh, if you kept it on top and it's a gold card, my money's on Supreme Verdict.
Sure. The card that Ben kept on top has to be very powerful. It has to be something like Settle, Supreme Verdict, Cryptic Command. It has to deal with the whole board in a swath. The only card I think that he would keep it on top that isn't one of those cards is something like Electrolyze.
Oh, that would be bonkers. Oh, my goodness me. Give me an Although he doesn't get to draw a card.
That's okay. I think you get enough value.
No, not good enough. No, I wouldn't even cast it. I'd put 2 at the face. I'd put 2 at the face just to draw the card. You got to get that value. You got to get that value, Eduardo.
2 for 1s aren't enough for you?
It's not a 2 for 1. It is in spirit. But look, you know what? There's something that's very important that a lot of players lose sight of in the game Magic the Gathering, and that is the moral victory. You've got to have the moral victory. And targeting 2 phantasmal images with Electrolyze and saying, oh, my spells count, don't get to draw a card, you're giving so much moral equity up in that exchange.
I agree, but you still need to win games of Magic.
Okay, all right, well, get that. Our wires are getting well and truly crossed here, my friend.
It's fine. We kind of all agree that Electrolyze is the right way to go, though.
Here's another Reflector Mage now. It's going to be a straight-up Necrotile.
2 free Necrotiles.
Getting rid of that soldier token there, as the phantasmal image that is disguised as a lieutenant gains another token. And Stark, he drew and passed? There's got to be a settle then. Your eagle eyes have not deceived you.
Okay.
Attacks with all of them. Oh no, he thinks better of it. Oh, as another thing of it.
Attack, Ben's like...
Ooh, yes.
Okay, this spot I would put Ben on a high chance of having settle. I mean, Ben could have nothing. This could be a bluff, but yeah.
But he kept a card on top. He's got to have something here. Just going to attack with the images here. Looks like Nagro has picked up his game against Frolik there. So these teams tied at 1-1. This one will decide the way that first ones go. So we're going to see now a block on the smaller phantasmal image. And then... Oh, it was Electrolyzer, and he played the value play. I'm the greatest player in the world. I'm the greatest player that has ever been, because Ben Stark refusing to give up value. He's got to keep those cards coming. Draws a card after bolting one of the images right out of here.
There's definitely one line where that value is correct. It's when you go Snapcaster, Electrolyze, and do the same thing.
And a hieroglyphic illumination, just to embarrass us even further here. Ben Stark, what a mask. Oh, hang on. We've just had a waiter approach the coverage. He's with a steaming bowl. Oh, of your words, Eduardo. Well, you better read up, my friend.
I mean, right now I'm just impressed by Ben's cube deck.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Let's see what Ayers can work with now. He's got another 2-drop. It's another lieutenant.
No, I mean, it's really interesting. The illumination technology is really interesting. It's kind of strange that it's not combining with something like Ascanta the Sunken Ruin, since that would be a good reason for it. I guess Ben just wants velocity.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Like churning through his deck, building a critical mass of cards in his hand. I think he's got another Electrolyze here.
Yeah.
And this one was also going to be huge. Get rid of these 2 creatures. Draw a card. That's a straight-up 3 for 1. And that is how you win games of Magic. Ben Stark, a masterclass from him. Ayers has just continued this relentless pressure. But Stark remains unbowed, unbroken.
Yeah, I really like how Ben approached this game. Just so much. I mean, just planning for all that value. It's really good to see. I feel like Brandon could have been a little more aggressive, playing around settle. It's what you mentioned earlier, right? Like, you don't have the information on your opponent's hand, so...
But I think this is what... You know, it's very easy for us to say. I'm not saying you're wrong in making that observation, but it's very easy to... And this is where Jeskai players pick up a lot of percentage points, is because their opponents can never really... They're always sort of wrong-footed. They're wrong-footing their opponents a little bit, at least. And we know that Stark has a single settle, and we know that Ayers... in fairness, was playing probably a little bit too conservatively there, but you can never be sure.
Right, no, and that's why I said it was an interesting discussion. You're not certain about the right line there.
And another Helix as well. That's the 22nd, I should say, point of life that Ben Stark has gained this game. He's cast 4 Lightning Helices, 1,000 pardons, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to a timely reinforcements, and he cannot wait to get to that untapped step. Finds a Field of Ruin off the top. It's not going to be too much help here, but he's still going to use it on this Ancient Ziggurat.
By the way, that extra basic island was not standard in Humans before.
No.
But with Blue-White, seen way more play, and there's more paths and Field of Ruin, the second basic has a lot more value in the Human decks as a result.
And Stark here, basically a wasteland with upside for him. He's playing a lot of basics. I have to say this, for a Jeskai deck, a fair few basics in his list. Look at that. 3 islands, a mountain, and 2 plains. 6 is, I'd say we usually see it's 4 to 5?
Yeah, but I think 6 is part of the standard and probably better than 5.
Oh no, look at this. A lethal attack for Ben Stark. After all of that work, he dug so deep. and awoke the horror within as we saw a timely Mantis Rider off the top. All the Fields of Ruin in the world, no good against that Aether Vial on 3. Sorry to cut you off, Eduardo, but that game, I mean, Ben Stark set us up for a thrilling conclusion there, and Ayers just like, no, hope you brought your umbrella, my friend, because it's about to rain on your parade.
I think he had access to Falia's Lieutenant as well, so the Mantis Rider was not necessary. But yeah, it was still pretty good here. And wow, okay, we're mid-combo.
Yes, we are deep into the Ancient Stirrings mirror match here between Eric Froelich on Eldrazi Tron. Looks like Jacob Nagro on KCI combo. And no lands in play for Nagro. Doesn't want them, doesn't need them. And, of course, always coming into KCI is a little bit difficult, especially from a coverage perspective, to figure out exactly what's going on. And, ladies and gentlemen, it's at times like this that I give thanks that I'm not the one who has to explain what's going on in this game. Eduardo Sajkalik, our noble expert, my friend, bring us up to speed here.
All right, so right now we're cycling some artifacts to get some more artifacts. No, okay, I'll actually describe specifically what's going on. What Jacob is building up to is the point you can get a loop. And essentially a loop uses a really strange quirk in the rules interaction. Normally, the way the loop works is with Scrap Trawler, Mirror Retriever not there yet. So right now what we're doing, we're turning for our deck, we're adding mana with Clark Ironworks, we're recuperating cards, ideally a Kerr Wellspring, and the chain goes down to 1 with the star or chromatic sphere, so you draw a card, recoup Mox Opal, and that way you're ahead on mana. Now, where Jacob wants to go is get a Mirror Retriever. Once he gets Mirror Retriever, Scrap Trawler, Mirror Retriever, Clark Klein Ironworks, a Mox Opal somewhere, probably in the graveyard, and some kind of 1 mana I need to pay ability. So Pirate Spellbomb, Chromatic Star, Chromatic Sphere. What you do at that point is is you win. And the way you win...
What you do at that point is have your opponent extend their hand and concede.
Yeah. What happens is, because you can pay for the mana ability at the same time, you can overpay, so to speak, so you sacrifice all the artifacts at once, and the Scrap Trawler kind of sees all the artifacts go to the graveyard. The Mirror Retriever gets the Scrap Trawler. The Scrap Trawler triggers get basically everything else, and then you just keep on going.
Well, can I tell you what, Eduardo? I'm not wearing a hat, but if I were, I'd take it off to you, my friend, because I threw this curveball at you, and you just held firm at the plate and swung for the fences. So well done. A concise and very forthright explanation of the KCI deck. If you're looking for a more in-depth explanation, I'll tell you what, there's one man you need to speak to. It is Matthew Nass, the Little Dicky impersonator. He's written 2 articles on KCI. They're called How to KCI, and I think How to KCI 2 Electric Boogaloo, but they're on channelfireball.com. You can find them there and get across that.
Yeah, I mean, but he made a fool of TJ and me because we were talking about, well, we kind of know what Mad Nass is on, and then we talked about how we haven't seen this Hardened Skills deck yet.
Yep.
And then obviously Mad Nass is on it.
Of course he is. Yeah.
In a mirror match, by the way.
Yeah. No, he's always ready to chuck a spanner in the works there. We're back to Stark and Ayers now. Very quick sideboarding from them. Love to see that sort of stuff. And Starky on the play, but facing down Athalia, Guardian of Thraben. That's bad news for the Jeskai deck.
Yeah, I mean, early on, it's the threat that the human deck wants, but it's okay. Again, the Jeskai deck doesn't aim to cycle through its deck too much, so usually you get to fire off a removal spell against Thalia and then proceed with the rest of the game plan. Here we see one of the cards that Cedric Phillips detests, and yet is good, though, in a matchup like Jeskai, Militia Bugler. A recent addition to the human deck, essentially because it got printed, but allowing you to both put pressure and gain card advantage.
Very divisive card. I know there are plenty in the Magic community. Probably the most outspoken critic of it, of course, Cedric Phillips. I tell you what, I got across he was posting videos on Twitter of people who were doing well with humans, with them not playing the Bugler. But it's still getting the nod. It seems to be a very confident main deck inclusion for many human mages.
Yeah, and the kind of take that Brandon has with it is actually the take I like the most. You only play 2 or 3. You're not trying to change them too much. And then your sideboard cards, right? You play 1 Kambal, Console of Allocation, 1 Hostage Taker. Mm-hmm. Because you have Militia Bugler in your deck, it allows you to play not 2 copies of these conditional humans, but just 1, and it makes it more likely that you're going to see it. So it just makes your post-board configuration a little more solid.
Yeah, and this is what we see with decks that play a lot of those, quote-unquote silver bullet cards in the board. They want velocity. They want ways to find these cards. Faithless Looting is the classic example that enables sideboards to play a lot of flexible one-offs. Here's a Lightning Helix for 3 now. We'll see if Ayers has anything to say about that.
I would say that Thalia can come in and prevent free damage. That would be nice. Nice play.
Okay, so what we're seeing here now, this is a bit of a complex rules interaction as we see Thalia 2 come in, and the legend rule means that the first Thalia will be sacrificed, and that prevents the Lightning Helix from resolving, which critically prevents Ben Stark from gaining 3 life. And that's the reason for the timing there.
Yeah, that was good. Brandon recognized.
And, we look at that, and that's a tiny play, right? That's like a 1% play. But those percentage points, they add up.
Yeah, and I think here it's actually more than a 1% play. Free life can be really big in a matchup like this, especially if you start racing with a Mantis Rider on a key turn. It forces the control player to... The thing is, when you put the control player in a low life total, they're forced into a play pattern that they don't like because they have to respect what you could have rather than what you do have. So then they have to make forced plays, which gives them less value. And the lower your life total, the less you can electrolyze free for ones, because you're forced to just buy time.
Here's some bad news now for Ben Stark as we see Sin Collector. Now this one is a little bit different to Card Sale Freebooter because it collects sins for good. It doesn't give them back. And so an Oh, give it to me. Ben Stark, what a master. Another 3 for 1 here for Ben Stark. A 2 for 0. Get some. He says to his opponent, Sin Collector, my friend, well, let me jump into the confession booth, my friend, and you can lose half your board here. Now, all the same, Ayers is going to get to pick apart the hand of Ben Stark.
You mean the cryptic command? I mean, at least...
Well, I'll stop you there. There is another 4-cost blue instant that is well and truly worth considering in this hand.
I mean, at least Ben Stark is playing 4 copies of Cryptic before the first copy of Hieroglyphic Illumination. I would hope. But yeah, one of the interesting things is while you do want a card like Sin Collector in these matchups, the fact that these Jeskai and blue-white decks have been focusing on Planeswalkers means that it has gained a lot less value than it normally would have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, a Teferi is still a large problem, and not being able to take it, you can see the effect there, right? It's like Snapcaster Mage and Teferi. So there are situations where I've seen blue-white players essentially have that, but yeah, here we go.
Double Lieutenant here. The Officer's Mess is open for business, and the Bugler now getting in. Little Bugly boy coming across for 4.
Yeah, and Brandon here tapping out. No Supreme Verdict to speak of, so you might as well try to put as much pressure as you can on the board in order to fight the Teferi Hero of Dominaria preemptively.
So Teferi in the hand of Stark. We know that, of course, thanks to that Sin Collector. The Ayers also well and truly across that fact. But let's not forget, there is that Hieroglyphic Illumination begging to be cast, but it's going to be Snapcaster Electrolyze again. The value train. Express service, my friends, to Value City and your Lord Mayor, Ben Stark. Assisted by his worthy consul here, Snapcaster Mage. Here is a Kite Sale Freebooter. And another Electrolyze in the hand of Ben Stark. He can't stop drawing the card.
But by the way, a really small interaction that might have been missed here is Jacob pointing out the Lieutenant trigger. And I kind of like that kind of teammate interaction where you just point out something that's really obvious, but just you want to make sure like things go well. So you have your teammate helping you up on the obvious stuff, so you can liberate your brain for the really complex situations like what spells do I play, what sequence, how do I play around these cards.
Electrolyze gets eaten up by that Card Sale Freebooter. We have the Guardian of Thraben once again on the battlefield, and a big attack with Athalia's Lieutenant and the Bugler once again. Another Snapcaster off the top for Stark. It's not going to do so much this time around. Teferi's still in hand for the Hall of Famer. What is he going to do this turn? A critical turn, I would say, with him on 5. He needs a way to survive this onslaught. It's not looking good.
No, I think here we're going to see Snapcaster Mage Lightning Helix just to be able to survive.
That's not even going to do it in the face of that Thalia, however.
We have access to 5 mana.
Oh, excuse me, 5 mana, yes.
Yeah,
excuse
we're fine.
me. I was thinking the Electrolyze wasn't going to be good enough. But no, the Lightning Helix, you're right.
Yeah. But yeah, the one thing about Sin Collector that is really nice is that exile. The fact that Cryptic isn't discarded but is exiled, so you don't actually get the Snapcaster Mage it back. And the power of the Sin Collector here is especially that Ben no longer has access to that effect to buy a turn, buy some time, and try to get to timely reinforcements or Supreme Verdict or an effect to deal with this whole board.
So Ayers now getting busy. He's a hungry boy, going to get some lunch here. And Stark, he does have Eric Froelich at his shoulder. Of course, after having gone down 2-0 to Jacob Nagro, Froelich is free to dispense whatever advice he sees fit. And of course, Nagro the same for either Alan Wu or Brandon Ayers here.
Yeah, and here you get to Snapcaster Lightning Helix going to 8. So then you can block the Lieutenant and the Bugler and try to get to a mass removal spell. If that's your plan, then getting the Electrolyze, unfortunately, only does so much since there's a ton of damage coming. So maybe the plan is to just block the Lieutenant, go Snapcaster Mage, flashback, the Lightning Helix on it, but then you have a Vial on free, which is complicating your life immensely too.
Ayers does have a Militia Bugle, a Mantis Rider in hand. Chose not to deploy it. Sin Collector as well. I like these as instant speed options here for the Humans player.
And that was, again, an interesting line by Brandon to not deploy that Mantis Rider, since Brandon doesn't necessarily know what Ben Stark drew between the Electrolyze and the natural draw step. So I think it's okay to keep the Mantis Rider in a position where with Ben at 5, you can put enough pressure that Ben would have to tap out at some point to deal with the problems that are coming down, and then just play the Mantis Rider at a very inconvenient time for Ben.
Stark's going to line up some blocks here. He's certainly taking his time in doing so. Going to force the action now. Or it's going to be Snapcaster Mage first. That makes better sense here. So, snip, snap. Tiago Chan coming down once again. And it will be one Lightning Helix, please. Lines up the blocks.
Also, Brandon's plan is probably to Sin Collector on draw step in order to get rid of a sweeper or a Cryptic Command.
Helix to finish off the Bugler as well, if all goes well here for Stark.
Yeah, the Bugler, while you would prefer to kill the Phallus Lieutenant here, you can't really do so. If Brandon has a single human in hand, that plan doesn't work, so this is correct.
So draw step here, we're probably going to see this Sin Collector. Looks like Ayers is champing at the bit to get this boy online. Yep, and whoop, here it comes, the 2-1. Let's strip away this hand. And Hieroglyphic Illumination.
I mean, that's the only card you can take.
It's the only card here. Will Stark fire it off? It may be too late for the Hall of Famer here. He's facing down a pretty sizable board. He can cycle it, I suppose. Looks like that might be the play here for Stark. Yep.
You can draw into Path to Exile.
Off the top. All right. Now we got a stew going here.
Right. So you have a land, so you can Path the Lieutenant. Oh, but yeah, you don't have the mana because of Thalia, essentially putting a wrench in the works here.
Yes, can't play the Teferi after that, of course, even with the land in hand.
I think Ben is just locked out of this game.
Do you think Winter has well and truly come here for Ben Stark?
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that one for a long time. I've been sitting on that since we sat down.
Where? At this desk or on the plane?
On the plane. I'm like, yeah, this is good. If I get the chance, if Ben Stark is about to lose a game of Magic on feature, I'm gonna absolutely slam that one home.
Fair enough. But yeah, here the problem. Without that Thalia, you could go Path to Exile plus the Fairy and potentially survive if it wasn't for Brandon's Mantis Rider. But here, you can only deploy one of these two effects, and there's still lethal damage, not quite on board, but in Brandon's hand. I mean, Ben's going to play it out, probably going Path to Exile on the Lieutenant, since it's better than running out the Teferi in this spot. And then Brandon will see the hand, will show the Mantis Rider, and that will probably be it.
So the Lieutenant may be shown the door here with Path to Exile. Nope, okay. All that Ben Stark is going to show his opponent is a handshake, and that is enough for Stark to concede the game and indeed the match, as Winter and its grasp well and truly came for Ben Stark. Another noble bloodline lost to the mists of time. Although both of these teams, of course, at 5-0, so I'm sure we're going to see plenty of them as we continue. My friends, we do have to go to a break, but the good news to go with that particular bit of bad news is that there is Time Walk Magic coming up after. Stick around on the other side of these ads. Eduardo and I will be back with more Magic here from GP Detroit. floor here at GP Detroit, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ronnie Knight. Eduardo Sajkulik is here. We are ready to slam and then jam. It is time for some time warp magic here from Michigan. We've got more Team Unified Modern coming your way and some fan favourites appearing on the screen before your very eyes, ladies and gentlemen, for your viewing pleasure. The team of Pat Cox, Luis Scott Vargas and Gabby Sparts are being rolled out once again for another tilt at the crown. These guys 5-0 so far, Eduardo, as far as I'm aware. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. 5-0.
Haven't lost a game so far. We'll see. Or haven't lost a match at least. Let's see if that continues as we head down for some Time Walk Magic. Let's get underway now and see who they are up against and have a look at what decks as well are going to be brought to bear. We've discussed this already throughout the weekend, the fact that there's generally the Noble Hierarch slot, the Ancient Stirring slot, and then, of course, the free roll, essentially.
But a lot of people have chosen to bring that as the free roll Celestial Colonnade.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing here with Corey Burkhart playing off against Pat Cox. Cox on humans. This, I have to say, would be probably public enemy number one within Modern right now. It's a deck that everyone is well and truly across, and a pretty smart start here for Pat Cox.
Yeah, very fast with Noble Hierarch, Champion, and Naming Path. This is rapid enough that Pat may be able to kill Corey before the 4th land drop for Cryptic Command. Especially, yeah, okay. Oh, but that is why Cedric doesn't like this card. You want to deal pressure, but then you're only putting free power, really.
Cuts off Freebird is a nice one here for Cox to find as we see Burkhart ship those below. I got the chance to catch up with Corey as I came into the tournament hall earlier on, and he has been taken off his beloved Grixis control, Eduardo. But fear not, because he's still playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, one of his favourite cards of all time, just slamming and jamming with Jace as much as possible. And the reason he's not playing Grixis is because bloody Martin User stole his Lightning Bolts.
Ah, well, you got to do what you got to do. But here, because Pat won't be able to kill Corey on turn 4, Corey gets to unlock the potential of his hand, which includes the Settler to Wreckage that was top decked, as well as the Cryptic Command. And that's kind of why it's important for the Humans deck to kill on turn 4, is because you want to stop these blue-white decks from being able to get to that, magical land number 4. I mean, if they draw Terminus, they draw Terminus, but you want to at least maximize the chance.
Pat Cox. I still call Australia home. My heart sings. My blood races, my friends, as I see the best planes ever printed come to the battle. Even got a little kangaroo on it with Uluru. Look at that. Fantastic stuff. Pat Cox. What a master. Corey Burkhart deploying this Field of Ruin for a very good reason. His hand is a bit of a stinker when it comes to lands, as we see now an Oust cast off of that Plains. He has Ghost Quarter and he had Field of Ruins in hand, and he wants to cast Cryptic and Settle the Wreckage. So that's the reason for the very aggressive field there. Yeah,
I mean, he definitely... Field of Ruin has to fix your mana at some point, especially early in the game. And with Oust, kind of a card that we've seen these blue-white players bring in to have an additional 1-mana removal spell, often playing 1 or 2. You do it now since it's sorcery speed and interact as you can with the board. And yeah, Pat now has to just deploy as much pressure as possible.
So Cox now. A single white mana could mean a Champion of the Parish, but it's going to be 2 mana instead and a Meddling Mage. What do you name here? Settle? Cryptic?
It's kind of a tough one here. Settle I probably wouldn't name unless I knew my opponent had it in hand.
It's a Terminus.
That's the other line. You feel like you're far ahead, so you name Terminus. Because the nice thing about naming Terminus is if your opponent draws it as a miracle, they can't cast. I would have to check that rules interaction because of the way Miracle works.
No, they can't cast. You're still casting it. You're just casting it.
Right. But can you like remove the Meddling Mage in response to the Miracle trigger?
Yes. Yeah, you would be
I believe too.
Yeah, because it's a Miracle trigger. You cast it out of your hand. Here's a Field of Ruin now as we see Burkhart rip a Plains off the top. Settle the Wreckage is really going to put in some work if Cox doesn't play around it here.
Yeah, and getting rid of that Ziggurat means that Cox can't actually play the still freebooter that was revealed to Militia Bugler earlier.
Yes.
But yeah, I like...
Shove. Get it done. In they come. Corey Burkhart taps 4 mana, Settle the Wreckage, and it is a straight-up 3-for-1 here. Cox is going to get the chance to go and fetch a basic, but he's not playing that island. So he's nothing doing here.
It's gone. It's all gone. It's gone.
Just an easy game triple removal spell there with no downside. Champion. Cox going to continue to develop his board now with a Phantasmal Image. That is not what you want to do with your images. Oh, Eduardo, what an ugly face you're making. You're not impressed by what's happening here.
I mean, you do what you have to do, but this is not where Pat wants to be at all. Corey is starting to take relative firm control of this game.
Yeah, by the look of things here, Burkhart well and truly in the driver's seat. He's got lands and to spare, to ferry as well. Bit of an embarrassment of riches here for the American player to the right of your screen.
The only thing is Corey only has access to free blue mana, so he can't opt in Cryptic, which means he can only cast one spell this turn. So the question is, which one do you want it to be? And I mean, you could also play to Fairy, but you have no way to protect the Fairy. So I think here the Field of Ruin on Horizon Canopy is actually kind of an interesting line. Corey going, well, I'm only taking very minimal pressure here.
Yeah. So Burkhart opting to use that Field of Ruin, goes and gets an island.
Right, so deciding that the spell, like, you don't need to Cryptic command, you can save that Cryptic for a later stage. So Corey is probably going to opt on Pat Cox's turn and try to get a Terminus. If not, no harm foul.
Yep. That'd be the masterful play here as we see Ghost Quarter in the hand of Burkhart. Island as well, mismatched.
Oh, Ghost Quarter, wow, stripped by the planes. This is great.
No! Pat Cox with no basics left. Burkhart has removed every single land from Cox's side of the battlefield.
That's it.
Now, Cox does have the double Noble Hierarch all the same.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise this would be very dire.
Oh my goodness.
The triple, you mean?
The triple Noble Hierarch. Pat Cox doesn't need lands.
Right, and now we can attack with a large champ. The thing is, do you attack for one extra point of damage here by attacking with just champion? Or do you attack with both the champion and the image? You lose a point of damage, but if your opponent has a removal spell, you at least play around that. I kind of like the single attack since you're far behind and need things to work your way.
Opt now for Corey Burkhart. Off the top, is it a Terminus?
Maybe.
Nope.
Nope.
No, it is not. That would have been brutal, the old flawless victory there.
That would have been vile.
As we see now, Champion Parish crash across for 3. Burkhart down to 12. He's not worried, though. Glacial Fortress off the top for him. Mana Leak as well. That could do some work here, especially now as that the revolution has been successful. The land has been well and truly taken out of the hands of the oppressors.
But I really like Corey's lines here. I think the line of Ghost Quarter plus Opt plus Field was a really good line. It meant that Pat had far fewer top decks. So I actually really liked Corey's line there. Corey, though, is down to a single Cryptic command plus Teferi as a line of defense.
Mate, that is all you need.
And the question is here, do you Cryptic Bouncing Champion and drawing a card's good here.
Yeah, I like that. It ties up Cox into redeploying it if he wants. He's got, oh, look at this. Mantis Rider in hand, Kitesail Freebooter in hand, and the lack of a Ziggurat or Cavern or Unclaimed Territory, those cards are just dead ski.
Yeah. And it was interesting for me that Corey decided to bounce the champion rather than tapping the team. By tapping the team, then never mind.
Let's just win this game on easy mode as Pat Cox puts every single permanent he has in play under his library. That is that Corey Burkhart playing to the flawless victory. Cox cannot play any of the cards in his hand. What a draw for Burkhart. That's huge, Eduardo.
I mean, Corey was far ahead, and that just cements it. I thought, although to be fair, I thought Teferi had to ultimate before your opponent had no permanence.
Well, Burkhart has found the line here. Incredible stuff from the Grixis player.
I wonder if LSV at any point just looks like they finish their match. He looks like next door, and he's like, "Wait, what's going on?
How did this happen? Is this game 2? What are you doing here, buddy?" And Burkhart, we know his proclivity for Grixis decks. He's made the transition to the light side of the Force incredibly well here.
Yeah. I do wonder. I mean, you can keep playing this game, but I mean, let's.
Yeah, this one is in the books. The Winter Palace has been stormed. My goodness.
Oh, that Field of Ruin. Your next land is a one-time use.
Cox doesn't have any basics. I'm going to draw 3 cards. This is an absolute nightmare. What a massacre here for Burkhart. Oh, Horizon Canopy. This changes everything. No, it doesn't. No, it's going to win the game in short order. That's enough there. Cox finally packing them up, and Burkhart, a convincing, overwhelming win for him here. As we flip over now to Martin User and Luis Scott Vargas. Scott Vargas here on Jeskai. User
you must have liked that. One. You must have liked that little extra there.
Mate, I'm loving every minute of this. We're seeing Celestial Colonnades up and about, getting it done, crushing their enemies, seeing them driven before them, and that is, of course, the purest way to win games of Magic. Now, Serum Vision's here for Scott Vargas. He's also on the quad hieroglyphic illumination technology.
Well, I mean, both those teams have been undefeated up to that point. So
yeah,
there's at least merit.
There's something to it.
It might also be the pilots. It might be the pilots. The pilots being, Hall of Famers, some of the best players to ever have graced the game.
Yes, very true indeed.
So,
and these two players, of course, amongst the best, I would say, all time. Luis Scott Vargas, incredibly popular Magic personality, respected content producer with podcasts and articles. And Martin User, for me, the archetypical Hall of Famer. One of the most respected and humble men in the game. And someone that I really think is emblematic of what we look to in our ambassadors for this game. But not when it comes to winning games of Magic right now, because he's just had his derriere handed to him on a silver platter by LSV rather handily. So we switch back now to Pat Cox and Corey Burkhart. Let's see if Cox can avenge what happened last game there, Eduardo.
It just seems like Celestial Colonnade is taking it out. I also predict that Tron will win on Table C.
Yeah, I think it is a bold prediction, but a wise prediction in the Tron mirror, in the evil versus evil matchup. Well, there are no real winners there, are there? We all lose in the Tron mirror.
I guess not. You get a taste of your own medicine.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, is eaten by Path to Exile. I've got a lot more to unload on Tron, but I want to pay. I know that I can't. I've got to ration it.
No.
I can't just throw all this shade on Tron in the first round that I'm doing here. I got to ration it. I got to measure it out.
It's all right. You get to see Pat Cox getting the one basic plains.
I love it.
Unfortunately, I think Pat would have loved an island in the deck.
I would tell you this: no matter how far or how wide I roam, I still call Australia home, mate. And I love to see this plains get played.
I personally was more in favor of Corey's Neverlands plains, just because it reminds me of freedom. In a weird
He's rocking some real heat with his basics as well. Where's the Canadian basic, Eduardo?
It's a good question.
Where's the Canadian basic showing, I don't know, moose antlers and hockey pucks and frozen apologies? I know a lot about Canada, as you can tell.
I have a playmat from the face-to-face tournament series that has a bunch of moose and
yeah. So it's not you can't even
Mountie bears and
you can't even have a go at me for being insensitive. You guys are all about it.
Oh, we love it.
I would apologise to any Canadians that are listening, but I don't want to then get into the apology avalanche that would follow, because I'll say,
you do live in Great Britain, right? So
to anyone who is offended, I am sorry, but to any Canadians who are then going to start apologising to me, and I apologise back, and then we're here all day. But I do live in Great Britain, yes. You can't win them all. You can't win them all. I do live in the land of eternal rain. Here's Vendilion Click now for Corey Burkhart as we see Meddling Mage for Pat Cox getting busy. And Burkhart going to go target Cox. Let's have a look at his hand here. We do have, look at this, Gaddock Teague, double Phantasmal Image and a couple of lands. Not a great hand here for Cox.
I mean, it was a great hand until that Gaddock Teague is probably going to get shipped away. That said, if Corey has access to Snapcaster Path, I probably would leave the Teague around. Since, not because the Teague's not a problem, it's more you have perfect information on what's going on. You're definitely not taking one of these Phantasmal Images here, since Pat would have the option, and Phantasmal Image is one of these cards that gets better the more diverse your options are, so you don't want to take one of those. So the question is, do you take Teague or not?
No, just going to leave it and block here with the Vendilion Click. So Burkhart, a bit of a Doomblade plus peak. Well, not even peak. He didn't draw a card, did he? And here's Gaddock Teague. But again, Burkhart, he ain't mind. He can get rid of this little Kithkin fellow.
Yeah,
Grandpa Hobbit.
Yeah, if Corey couldn't have gotten rid of Gaddock Teague, then for sure it would have been taken. But we see another path to exile. We see a Snapcaster Mage. Plenty of options.
And Cox doesn't even have the option of getting a backup Gaddock Teague, thanks to the images in hand, of course. Little Kithkin advisor is a legend, going to come across for 2. And I like this. I really like Burkhart taking this too.
Yeah, of course. You have like tons of time here, so
Yeah.
the 2 images are really weak.
But I think it's let's point something out here, especially for newer players who tend to value their life total a little bit higher than you do as you get a bit older. A lot of players would have snapped off that path immediately, right? But the 2 life is not hugely consequential here. You can afford it to get a little bit more information. And now Cox, we see he chooses to deploy the path to exile on the lieutenant as a result.
Yeah, and now the phantasmal images. Well, I don't have many great options to go.
And that's just a nice little 2-for-1 there for Burkhart, rewarded for his patience. And for players who are looking to really get into the groove of competitive Magic, you've got to make plays that on the face of it seem a little unorthodox.
Yeah, I really like just being patient here. You know that Pat is in a position to kind of force play position. He has to play whatever is there and then image it. So any spell would have been really powerful for Corey. So I kind of really liked how Corey's navigated this whole match, actually.
Yeah, it's been really, really powerful, I think. And again, apologies to experienced players who understand exactly why you would do that. But, we were all new once, and I think it's worth pointing out as we see another path to exile. This is the little insurance policy, a little safety net here for Burkhart. He's going to tie up this attack with a Gaddock Teeg. He's given the path to exile flashback. He doesn't have to cast it, however.
Yeah, and this is really heads up. Corey understands that with 2 cryptic commands, you don't really need this path to exile. You don't need the Snapcaster Mage to stay in play. Just offer the block, and you're happy. I mean, you could also use the path, but I think there was definitely a line here to not use up the path and use it up on anything that Pat may have played.
Yeah, because that would then prevent Cox from playing a meaningful creature, knowing that it could, get eaten by a free path. But doesn't look like Cox has got any of the goods here as we move back to Burkhart now. Finds a colonnade and gets busy for 2. I like this, nice and aggressive from him.
I mean, you might as well. There's no ground haste creature from the humans deck, so you might as well start doing pressure. The Ghost Quarter is on cavern. On one of the caverns is starting the train, though.
Horizon Canopy is going to give Cox a second look at the top of his library. What can he find here?
Such a powerful land. Just mana plus ability to cycle makes that Horizon Canopy one of the more powerful cards in Modern.
Here's a nice one, a Sin Collector, but Cox didn't play it off the Cavern of Souls. Oh, no!
Oh, that
is bad news bears here for Cox.
Yeah.
He has really screwed the pooch on that one as we see a counter draw here.
I wonder if that cavern was on illusion.
That would explain things there.
Because that would explain the Ghost Quarter on cavern.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's still a second cavern, so why? And with the mana the way it was, it's quite possible. It's very typical for a human player to name illusion off the second cavern.
I agree. All right.
And with 2 images, so I think that's what happened. Cavern was probably naming illusion, and Corey unlocked his. Yeah, and you can see it here. The cavern isn't tapping for Meddling Mage. Yeah.
Well, in that case, I would like to offer an apology to Pat Cox for calling out what was obviously not a misplay. I'm a cloth-eared buffoon. I think this is well and truly public knowledge by now. But sometimes I don't hide it as well as others. So apologies to Pat Cox there. Obviously, little too ready to call out something there.
And while we were fixing that, I love that Corey bounced the Snapcaster Mage rather than drawing a random card. It's kind of deja vu. I felt like I've seen this a lot. But yeah, Snapcaster plus Cryptic, really powerful. But yeah, Corey just decides to rumble in.
Yeah, getting busy here. I like this as well. Putting Cox on the clock here. And we'll see if he's got anything to say about it. 3 mana. Looks like he's getting ready to deploy another card. What could it be? It's a Militia Bugler.
Yeah, and Corey's decision to attack rather than pass the turn is also an interesting one. I mean, Corey kind of wants to lock this game of... Oh, my. Wants to lock this game a bit because then you get to friend and lethal easily. But, yeah.
Path to exile on the Bugler, and that means another Phantasmal Image deployed for no value. Burkhart has taken Pat Cox to the cleaners, and here is Teferi as well, coming around and giving the rooms a final inspection, putting those dust gloves on and inspecting the mantelpiece. Back to Burkhart, back to Cox off the top. Even the mighty Australian plane's not going to be good enough here for him, you would think.
Yeah, this is a really rough position for Pat Cox. I mean, just got 2 for 1 to bunch in spots where you wouldn't normally be 2 for 1.
Yeah, man, with like the Phantasmal Images, the Gaddock Teegs, all that sort of stuff. It was horrific.
Yeah. Just, yeah, the images, those were some of the worst Phantasmal images. And it's not because Pat mistimed them. Pat just kind of was semi-forced into these plays. And,
Yeah,
you know, Corey already played 2 Path to Exiles. So, you know, does Corey have the third one? Well, actually, I can't really play around in this spot. So, like, it looked horrible, but, I mean, in truth, Pat kind of was forced to do it.
So Teferi here for Corey Burkhart. Corey Coldheart by the look of things here as he shows no mercy for poor old Pat Cox. But he's just sitting there, just relaxing, enjoying his time in the feature match area. Kitesail freebooter off the top.
Yeah, no need to do anything really here. You're so far ahead. Teferi's just going to get there.
Terminus in hand now for Burkhart. And in addition to a Snapcaster Mage, of course, that's being played face up. And the Terminus will get eaten up by that freebooter. It doesn't represent a very meaningful clock against the hero of Dominaria, however, who is ticking ever closer to that pseudo-lethal ultimate. 7 loyalty, another card.
Right, or the 4/4 flyer is a very good defender.
That's also a very worthy card to keep in mind here. Oh, but a Lyra Dawnbringer as well, just to ram the point home.
Lyra seems to have been a really popular card from these blue-white decks.
Yeah.
It just puts the nail in the coffin, right? You're never keeping Reflector Mage, so it just dominates the board.
But there are the reason we see the Angel package in white blue control, and I wrote about this week for TCG Player, last week I should say, is that it's a sideboard plan that offers an enormous amount of flexibility. It's great against aggressive decks like humans because this 5/5 is a stone wall. Great as a repeatable life gain source against burn, but also a fantastic threat to bring in against control post-board, against decks that are going to trim all that creature removal, right? A 5/5 lifelinker, even if you attack once, it's going to do a huge amount of work.
But Pat is aware.
Look at the tech! Look
Well,
at the tech.
The tech is keeping in the card, but yes. It's still like really good recognition that Lyra might be in.
Yeah.
And with Militia Bugler, you can just get 1 or 2 copies of Reflector Mage you keep in. I think that's the power of that card. Is just you get to configure your sideboard to have 1 or 2 of these conditional effects rather than being forced down a specific path.
Burkhart looks to be considering the removal of the Kitesail freebooter, but instead he's going to draw a card. He does have Lyra Dawnbringer. You would imagine Baneslayer also in the conversation here for Burkhart, probably playing a copy of that in his sideboard as well.
Indeed. And here, Snapcaster Cryptic Command buys quite a bit of time.
Yep. Tap your team, draw a card. Tap your team, bounce maybe even.
I mean, if Teferi loses some loyalty, is it so bad?
Well, the thing is, it just means that, I mean, the emblem you're never coming back from. You're never coming back from the emblem, basically.
Yeah, so Corey's probably going to just lock the game that way.
I think so. Snapcaster Mage, target Cryptic Commands. Smart money on it being tap draw here, by the look of things.
Well, with a second Cryptic in the graveyard, you could do tap bounce my own Snapcaster.
I love that play. I love that play. Drawing a card, drawing a Snapcaster effectively rather than a random card off the top. But no, Burkhart goes for velocity. Rips a freshie off the top here.
The reason not to do it is if Pat had a way to interact with Snapcaster Mage, unlikely, really, but could have had, then you counter the whole part of the spell. So Corey is just like, I want to lose to no card in the format at this point. So we're going to just guarantee, draw the card, and then emblem. And yeah, here, really a dominant position. You can get rid of the freebooter, Terminus, and start getting rid one by one of Pat Cox's lands. Or you could just stay back with the... I think getting rid of the lands is probably the right sequence here.
So an opt now for Burkhart. Costs 2, of course. Going to exile the Kitesail freebooter. That unlocks the Terminus. And Burkhart with 6 cards in hand. Snapcaster Mage. Going to go down to the deli, grab himself a sandwich here. Another Teferi in hand. Field of Ruin. Oh, an Embarrassment of Riches. Which card do I cast? It's going to be Baneslayer Angel. He's got the Lyra to make it a 6/6. We have seen Corey Burkhart unrelentingly.
Angel Tribal, right here in Modern.
Oh my goodness me. Corey Burkhart, one of the most convincing performances we've seen at this tournament so far, and Pat Cox has had enough. Corey Burkhart absolutely trashing his opponent. But Pat Cox put up the fight at the bitter end. I respect that. Once again, apologies to Pat Cox for my slight error there in calling that play. No, it wasn't even really slight. It was egregious and unnecessary, so I do offer my apologies once again. But we move over now to table number 2. Scott Vargas and User, 2 Hall of Famers. Dueling banjos here. And it's Hollow One versus Jeskai Control. I know which horse I'm backing.
This it's always good to come in these turns with 4 mana because they tend to be the really key turns in how the game will shape up.
Yeah.
Since the Jeskai deck now has access to powerful cards, but you have to contend. Wow, and an attack here. Yeah,
Celestial Purge is a nice one out of the board here for Scott Vargas.
But this looks, let's see, depending, it seems like Goblin Lore was the only effect unless there was a Street Wraith. So this is 7. Yeah, okay. So the attack was for 9, it seems, so there probably was a Street Wraith.
And now the follow-up is a massive Zombie Fish here, the Gurmag Angler, coming down after being paid, the full delve price was paid.
And you see the Hollow 1 players go a little more... Oh, my.
Double Teferi not going to be good enough here for Scott Vargas.
And that's going to be it.
Up. And enough there for User to wrap up the game and indeed the match for his team. So the Corey sandwich continues. MC Squared, as they've called themselves. A great name. Certainly can get behind that one. And my friends, that's just about that for this round, but we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we'll be back with more live Modern from GP Detroit. Thanks for sticking with us so far. We'll be back and see you back here in Detroit after this.
So Magic the Gathering Arena, we chose that word arena very particularly because an arena is a place where people gather, where people come to compete, where people come to spectate and cheer on their favorites. It really is a place where the whole community can come together and experience the very best of what Magic has to offer.
Looking for a place to hang out and play Magic? Head to your local game store this and every Friday to play Friday Night Magic events. Get more info at magic.wizards.com/FNM.